Memorial in Charlottesville, Virginia this morning following Saturday's violent clashes between white nationalists and counter-protesters. Virginia's governor calling for unity and solidarity in the wake of this weekend's tragic events.
We all need to have some self-reflection on how did we get to this point? How did we get to a point where people are walking down the streets wearing swastikas and Confederate flags?
Let's talk more about that. How did we get to this point with Dr. David Swanson? He's the senior pastor at First Presbyterian Church of Orlando. Dr. Swanson, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Saturday night, all the events are coming down. You're sitting down to perhaps write your homily for the next day's services. What goes through your mind as you're putting this? What message do you want to give your congregation as you're seeing all that unfolding?
Well, I think at first when I saw everything, there was just profound sadness at the loss of life and to see that violence and that hatred unfolding. But I think the more that I thought about it, the more our congregation has had the opportunity to reflect. That sadness gives way to just being upset and even angry that there are these groups that espouse views of hatred and bigotry and now acts of violence. And we just can't wait around for others to do what we should be doing ourselves. And I think the governor of Virginia was right. You know, how did we get here? And as you think about that, what can we be doing? As Christians, it's absolutely antithetical to the gospel. We believe the kingdom of God is made up of every tongue, tribe, and people. And so we need to be able to create and foster that unity. And that's what we're talking about in our congregation.
And we have been talking about how did we get to this point. And certainly in your position, you act as a moral compass for your congregation and for those who follow you and listen to your words. Have you been seeing this coming for a while? Have you been seeing perhaps a moral degradation in our society?
Well, I think what you've seen is the increase of individualism, and the more focused we become on ourselves, the less able we are to participate in community. So as we withdraw from one another, we tend to withdraw only into those groups and peoples who think the way we think. And so it adds to the polarization of culture, so that if you disagree with my ideas, not only are you disagreeing with me, but now you're disagreeing with my identity and who I am as a human being. And so there tends to be we've gotten to a place where we can't talk to each other. We can't have helpful, meaningful discussions. And so, yeah, you could see this coming as we separate, we polarize, and that just leads to a lack of understanding. So I think we've got to begin to move towards each other. We have to be in community. We have to be intentional about building relationships with people that we don't know, who may not be like us. How do we engage those conversations? And we have to do that on purpose.
Certainly, you talk about withdrawing into groups that are like-minded. Certainly the racism exists, and the KKK has not gone anywhere. But why do you think that these groups feel more emboldened now to come forward and to march and to show themselves than perhaps in years past?
I think it's the increased polarization of our society as groups like theirs and many others are raising voices, and there's not a whole lot to be done other than to shout them down. And so they feel emboldened to go ahead and speak their minds and to spew their hatred, and there's not enough that's being done on the other side to stop that and to speak against it. And so, you know, what our president does or doesn't say, we're waiting on that. I think we've got to look at who we are as a community, who are we as individuals, and what can we do about it. I'm grateful for my friend Bishop Alan Wiggins. He invited me to come, before Charlottesville ever happened, invited me to come to preach to his predominantly black congregation on August the 27th. Why? To foster those interracial relationships so that we get to know one another. We have to be doing that now before these events happen, because that's what's going to help our community be the kind of community that we want Central Florida to be. So I hope everyone's thinking, what can I do? I'm not going to wait on government to take a stand here or there, but I'm going to engage this myself. What can I do to be a part of the solution in this?
Well, certainly challenges lie ahead for you to be a guiding light in these dark times. Dr. Swanson, we appreciate you spending a few moments with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up.